How did ancient humans survive without doctors? Imagine waking up thousands of years ago with a deep cut, a broken bone, or a terrible fever. There is no hospital nearby, no ambulance, no antibiotics, no modern surgery, and certainly no doctor waiting to treat you. So how did ancient humans survive? The surprising answer is that they were not completely helpless. They developed their own forms of medicine, learned from nature, relied heavily on their communities, and slowly passed useful knowledge from one generation to the next. But surviving without doctors did not mean life was easy. For many people, even a small injury could become a serious threat. The first and most important advantage ancient humans had was knowledge of their environment. Long before written medical textbooks existed, people observed plants, animals, wounds, illnesses, and the effects of different natural substances. If a particular leaf seemed to reduce pain, or a certain plant helped with a stomach problem, people remembered it. This knowledge was passed through families and communities. Some plants contained compounds that genuinely have medicinal properties, even though ancient people did not understand chemistry or biology. They simply learned through observation, experience, and sometimes painful trial and error. Ancient humans also understood something extremely important. Wounds needed to be protected. If someone cut their skin while hunting or working, they could wash the wound with available water, cover it with plant material, animal fibers, or other natural materials, and try to keep dirt away. They did not know about bacteria, but they could see that dirty wounds sometimes became swollen, painful, and deadly. Over generations, people learned which practices seemed to help and which ones made injuries worse. This was not modern medicine, but it was the beginning of practical medical knowledge. Broken bones were another enormous challenge. Imagine falling from a tree or being injured during a hunt. There was no X-ray machine to show exactly what had happened, yet ancient communities could still recognize when a bone was broken. They sometimes used wooden splints, branches, cloth, leather, or other natural materials to keep injured limbs from moving too much. Some ancient societies developed surprisingly sophisticated techniques for setting and supporting broken bones. The results were not always successful, but the basic idea was simple: stabilize the injury and give the body enough time to heal itself. And this reveals something fascinating about the human body. Ancient humans survived partly because the body itself is remarkably capable of repairing damage. Bones can rebuild themselves. Skin can close wounds. The immune system can fight many infections. Muscles can recover from injuries. Ancient people did not understand these biological processes, but they benefited from them every day. Medicine was often less about controlling the body and more about giving the body enough time and protection to heal itself.
But what about serious diseases? This was where ancient life became much more dangerous. Without antibiotics, vaccines, modern surgery, or advanced diagnostic tools, infections that are easily treated today could become deadly. A simple tooth infection, for example, could spread through the body. A severe wound could become infected. A fever could come from many different diseases, and people had no microscopes to identify the real cause. Sometimes the only thing they could do was rest, stay warm, drink fluids, eat whatever food they could tolerate, and hope their body won the battle. Ancient humans also depended heavily on social cooperation. This may have been one of the biggest reasons our species survived. When one person became injured or sick, other members of the group could bring food, provide water, protect them from danger, care for children, and help them rest. A person who could not hunt for several weeks did not necessarily have to die. Someone else could share food. Someone could help them walk. Someone could watch over them while they slept. In other words, ancient healthcare was often a community effort. Certain members of these communities probably became especially knowledgeable about healing. Over time, some individuals may have developed expertise in plants, wounds, childbirth, bones, or other health problems.
These people could have been healers, herbalists, midwives, or ritual specialists, depending on the culture. Their knowledge was valuable because it was built from years of observation and experience. Even without modern science, a person who had treated hundreds of injuries would naturally know things that an inexperienced person did not. Of course, not every ancient treatment worked. Some probably caused harm. Without knowledge of germs, anatomy, or chemical reactions, people sometimes used treatments based on incorrect explanations. They might connect an illness to spirits, supernatural forces, or other causes that were not medically accurate. Some remedies may have been harmless, while others could have been dangerous. Ancient medicine was therefore a mixture of genuine observation, useful techniques, cultural beliefs, and plenty of mistakes. Childbirth was another major danger. Today, childbirth can be supported by trained medical professionals, sterile equipment, emergency surgery, blood transfusions, and powerful medicines. Ancient women had none of these advantages. Childbirth usually depended on experience, family support, and skilled attendants. Most births did not end in disaster, but complications could become life-threatening very quickly. This is one reason survival in ancient societies depended not only on individual strength, but also on accumulated knowledge and cooperation. So, did ancient humans simply have stronger bodies than us? Not exactly. The idea that ancient humans were somehow superhuman is misleading. They faced constant dangers that modern people rarely encounter. But they also lived in environments where survival demanded constant attention. They learned how to recognize useful plants, protect injuries, find safe food and water, avoid dangerous situations, and care for one another. Their greatest advantage was not that they were invincible, it was that they were adaptable. And there is one more important reason ancient humans survived without doctors. They did not need to survive every illness. This may sound strange, but natural selection works over generations. Individuals who could survive certain diseases or environmental dangers were more likely to live long enough to have children. Over enormous periods of time, populations became better adapted to their environments. But this came at a terrible cost. Many people who would survive easily with modern medicine simply did not survive in the ancient world. When we look back at ancient humanity, it is easy to imagine helpless people wandering through a dangerous world with no medical knowledge at all. But the reality is much more interesting. They were constantly experimenting, observing, remembering, teaching, and caring for one another. Their medicine was primitive compared with ours, but it was still medicine in the broadest sense, an attempt to reduce suffering, treat injuries, and keep people alive. So the next time you visit a hospital and see modern medicine at work, remember how incredibly far humanity has traveled. Ancient humans survived without doctors through a combination of natural healing, environmental knowledge, practical experience, community support, and enormous resilience. They did not understand everything about the human body, but they understood one crucial thing. When someone was hurt, the group had to help. And perhaps that is one of the oldest forms of healthcare in human history. Not a hospital, not a machine, and not a pill, but one human being refusing to leave another human being alone in their moment of danger. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into ancient human survival, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories about how humans survived, adapted, and changed the world.